market, everyone. Kevin Hinks here with Alex Coffey. Now, time for our cash tag segment. I'd like to bring in the Vice President of Research at LikeFolio.com, Miss Megan Brantley, to the show. She's going to talk about our feature stock today, and that is Teladoc. Megan, this stock is yearning for some good news. This stock hit a high of $308 in the pandemic, now trading about $20. Is this stock still tradable? Megan, what is your data telling us?
You know, I'm actually excited because we do see some signs of optimism here in our data, especially considering where it's trading right now. As you mentioned, whenever we look at just the macro trend of overall, consumers who are taking advantage of these telehealth services, which is where Teladoc is operating, we do see continued growth there, up by about just over 20% year over year, and a nice, upward trend. So this is a sign of stickiness. This is a sign of stability that, this isn't something that consumers are just saying, okay, I'm no longer using telehealth services. So that's good to see some growth there, that underlying macro trend. And then whenever we look at Teladoc, just mentioned volumes, we see a nice improvement on especially the 30-day moving average. Those mentioned volume buzz, it's up by about 17% year over year. And this is kind of a shift versus whenever we look at this on a 90-day moving average, so kind of a larger scale, we actually saw it down by about 7% year over year. So I think that this is nice, that it shows us that the company is gaining momentum into the new year, that we're seeing an uptick, especially just since the start of January, and consumer utilization of those Teladoc services. So this could be a sign of relief for investors and just a sign of optimism surrounding this company, at least from the lens of the consumer.
Megan, is this a situation where they were right place, right time? They had the infrastructure to provide these services when no one else did, or very few did, and now the traditional PCPs and other doctors have just basically integrated similar technology, and Teladoc is just one place you can go, but not necessarily the only game in town anymore? So you talked about telehealth in general has looked pretty stable, but Teladoc itself certainly doesn't look that way on the stock price.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I think that this was a massive, Teladoc was a first mover for sure, but now there have been a lot of other entrants into this space. You could see the name HIMSS on that chart. That was a name that we've talked about a lot. That was an up-and-comer that's really been able to capitalize on mental health services and things like that. And so I think that whenever we look at this in the lens of the consumer, we do see that Teladoc hosts consumer mind share. It contains around 40% market share, at least, or that consumer mind share, I guess, really would be a better way to put this, versus competitors. But that has shrunk. During the height of the pandemic, Teladoc was kind of the place where you went, and now consumers do have a lot of other options. We do see this as still being the largest player in our universe. And part of that is just because it has such a wide array of offerings. It has those mental health options, but it's really diving into the chronic care area as well, which I think is another major driver of its growth. So you can think of chronic care like diabetes and hypertension and weight management, things of that nature. And we do see mentions and signs of traction there. So I think that, you do paint a good picture, though, in the sense that Teladoc was once the only player. Now there are lots of players, but we do see a growing trend of consumers going into this area. And if Teladoc can continue to, maintain a high level of happiness and just kind of improve and just refine its offerings, this could be a major winner, especially where it's trading right now.
Megan, you just touched on, I think, one of the two things that's the key here for Teladoc, and that is chronic care. Half of Americans claim to have at least one chronic issue, and 1 in 3 subscribers to Teladoc have signed up for more than one. So chronic care is where their growth is. And by the way, they weren't, they had some massive losses when they did some goodwill impairments. Now they're focused on profits. Is that going to help them as well? Because the chronic growth is probably where their future is.
Yeah, and it is good, and not good, I guess you should say, but whenever we look at mentions, we do see consumers who are talking about utilizing that chronic care kind of, that maintenance. So you're not going just for a one and done visit, you're on board and you're managing this care through Teladoc. And I think that that is so significant for its future growth. Our data can't necessarily speak to, the underlying operational decisions that the company's making, but we can definitely see that the company is doing something right, and that it's gaining some momentum with consumers. Aside from chronic care, we do see continued signs of traction in its BetterHelp division, especially in January. And you can think of this as its mental health arm. And I think that that's another positive thing. Those mentions are up by more than 30%, so kind of outpacing just overall Teladoc care. So that's another, potential positive note for the company to head into 2024.
The stock was $308, now trading just over $20. But you're telling us there's a chance, Megan. Is that what you're telling us? Thanks for coming on as always, Megan. Thank you for bringing the LikeFolio data to Fast Market. Have a great day.
Guys, you too.
All right, Alex. This is an interesting company because it's at 1.2 times sales. It's not really expensive. It's been pretty much left for dead here, and they do have some positive things going on, Alex.
No doubt, and I think that the key thing here is that there's this general increasing comfort with these type of services as the technology improves. And as there's so many things where, truly going in and getting examined by the doctor don't seemingly need to be done. There's, certain renewals of medications, whatever it may be, that can be done in a, video conference like session. That it allows for efficiency for the patient as well as for the doctors, and that's the kind of thing that Teladoc's providing. The big thing too is it looks like it's tried to turn things around alongside the rest of the market. Bottomed out in that late October, early November timeframe, and it's rallied a good 33 or so % off those lows, which is pretty impressive considering the fact that this stock really didn't have any type of rally for the better part of almost 3 straight years.
Yeah, they acquired